So my talk today is really about getting your ducks in a row, finding a bit of balance and achieving that through systems. So thanks, Chris, for asking me to do a quick chat. I think we've never had a better time to pause and look at our business. It's absolutely crucial that we've got good systems in place, and I think it'll put us on the right foot when we come out the other side of this crazy time that we're on at the moment. So it's about doing the best with what you've got at the moment to survive and get through it and put you in a great position on the other side to be fighting fit. We've had some amazing webinars so far on in B2B. It's been fab. We've looked at brand, we've looked at IT, and everything that we're looking at is about giving a consistent service. So it's taking out the risk in everything that we do and benefiting our customers, our staff, all our interested partners. As Philippa said on her talk, it's how what we do now will define us, and how we react will be absolutely remembered. So we stick to our values, we do the right thing, we say the right thing, we go above and beyond for everybody. But the trouble is, companies aren't just systems and processes, they're people. And it's how we ensure that all our people give out the same message and do the same actions. So when we think about systems, they stand for method, order, everything in the right sequence. But whenever there's best word for it, an unsystematic interaction, call it human intervention, a decision, then really your goal can only be achieved in a random manner. What I mean by this is, whatever our purpose, our story, our values are, that is hugely important. And that's why when we have human links and decisions that need to be made in our system, they're made in the best way because they're aligned with these principles. But putting in systems isn't about being restrictive, because when you've got a really successful company, you don't ignore anything. You innovate, you find out what works, and then you systemize it, and then you communicate it, and then it becomes second nature. And then we react to other customer demands. So we innovate again, and the cycle goes over and over and over, basically. But we always design our systems for implementation. I don't know whether ever you've had regulations to meet, maybe software. We don't design it around that. We design it for purpose. So my advice really now is to dream big. Design what you're going to do. Some of us are pivoting our businesses. Design for purpose, and then we look at what systems will allow you to do that efficiently. So you make sure it's flexible. You know, people that are pivoting now, their systems are flexible enough to allow them to change. And when we look at good systems, we've got to be able to allow that system to grow with us. It's vitally important. Just quickly, why ducks in a row? Because we can dwell too much on this. When Mother Duck decides to go and cross the road, she doesn't wait for all the ducklings to line up before she crosses over. She just goes and they fall in line. And what I want us to do at the moment is think about the way we want to work and go for it and design. So we choose our way forward at the other side of this. So we're in a position of leading, not following. So I want you to take time to reflect, listen to staff, research what you're going to do with the market, and then plan the winning formula that will take you forward and define us, really. So that's a little bit about systems for success. My background, just very quickly, is the automotive industry, engineering, processes, lean manufacture. So this is the side of me that comes forward when I mentor. It's about finding the best way to do it, and to take that clutter out of your head and streamline. And that allows you then to take a step back and actually strategize on where the business is going, because it allows you to delegate effectively. So what we're going to cover, let's have a little look. Open to discussions afterwards, but I thought I'd cover a little bit about what I mean by a process. Some of you may know what a system is and the difference, how to assess where you are now, some very, very easy process mapping tricks so that we can have a little look at our system, and then about changing it and navigating how we change, the best way to cope with that. So let's have a quick look. So the next slide at the moment, this is what a process looks like, and this is what a system is. So process in basic terms is anything you do in your business. You have something that goes in, that might be a product, and it could be data, it could just be information in. And then you carry out an action on that and you get a different result. And that could be making something, it could be processing a quote, it could be delivering a service, it could be anything. And then we have what you see over the top, which is the control. We need to know whether that process has been done correctly, and that's essential. So if you look at the diagram underneath, you'll see how all of the processes within the business fit together, and everything is like a cog. And if one person pulls in the wrong direction and doesn't make decisions in line with our plan, it throws everybody else out. So that's what I mean when I talk about a system. It's lots of processes or procedures put together that work together to deliver your product, service, whatever you do. And the processes need to work in harmony. And when we've got people involved as well, they need to act in harmony and they need to enjoy the process and enjoy what they're doing. So this is why I'll talk later about involving people in changes we make. So we design the most efficient and effective way to do it, and we carry on. So just for fun, this diagram, there's lots of people out there with businesses, and sometimes they're all in order and some not. So this is just a thought process. Have a little think. How does your business operate at the moment, especially remotely? What's the flow of information within it? I don't know whether anyone's come across the Strategizer website. I can send a link out, but there's a great model called the business canvas model. And when people are looking at their business plan, I quite often point them in this direction because it gives you a lovely picture of all the parts of the business and how they interact. So if you want to check that out, I really would. But I'm sure I can give Chris the link to set it up. So why do we need to look now? Like I said, we've never been given a better time to stop and breathe. What we're going to do when we get out the other side, I'm not sure. But lots of people put off looking at systems because I don't think they realise the return on investment for doing it. It's a bit different to an advertising campaign or a PR campaign where we can see a return on investment for our advert. So we put it on until we actually have a bit of pain or a few cracks or a customer complaint or some employees that aren't quite happy, and then we react. So what I want you to do is look at it in a proactive way. Imagine your business as a tugboat. When we start off, it's really easy. We're a strong tugboat, easy to turn. And then as we grow, we end up more like a cruise ship. And to turn a cruise ship is a major operation. It takes a while to steer and even just change direction. But with a slick system and precision and people trained, it happens. So your business is the same, but we need to get the system in place to do that rather than wait for the problems. So hopefully that makes sense. But it really can help, I think, get ready for what's going to happen the other side. I'm hoping the tap's turned on, things start to flow again and our economy starts to move and we can build it back up stronger. But what could also happen is there could be a bottleneck that suddenly gets realised. And everybody who's been sat with their paychecks in their bank wants to go and buy services, do things, move on things they've been planning for a while, and they suddenly get let out. That means we've got to cope with a big influx. And we need to be able to react under pressure. So having good services and systems means we can do that. So that's why I put the first one under. It's exceptional service under pressure. There's no chaos. Everything's planned. Everybody needs to know what they need to do, and responses when maybe the lead time is just too much. But if everyone has a consistent response, then you should get through it. And it's also boundaries, channels of communication, clear responsibilities, a clear message. There's a great story that I've got about hotels. Hotels are great on systems. You wouldn't even know that they're doing it. When you arrive and check in at a hotel, they might say, oh, you know, what's your favorite paper? Or, you know, what's your favorite tipple, you know, drink with dinner? You know, we've got a restaurant. But these questions that are being asked, they're noting down your answers. So when you wake up and your paper's on the door, and you go down for your evening meal and, oh, wow, they've got your favorite brandy in. It all makes a difference to the service. But if that doesn't happen next time, you might go, oh, I'll forgive them this time. And then you go next time it doesn't happen, you might think of changing the hotel. But it's all very, very cleverly done. And that's the beauty of it. You will stand out by having these little things in place that make a big difference to the customers. The next one I've got on my list is to reduce risk and support good governance. And actually, it will remove the blame culture. Obviously, under pressure, if things don't happen, emotion rises, and then it's a case of whose job was it? Who hasn't done their job? And the blame comes in. Or maybe it wasn't anyone's job. Maybe actually you didn't define it in the first place. Maybe there's a gap in the system. But if you get everyone looking at the system rather than the people, the blame culture doesn't start setting in. So we start looking together. We start having a uniformed approach, a focus for improvement. It's a bit like what's happening at the moment all around us. You know, people are pulling together, and it shows just what's possible with the power of a common purpose and a faith and a belief. Everyone goes and makes a huge difference. So when we've got a system in place that everybody agrees, which is really important, and they want to improve together, then that gets rid of the blame. So we've got well-designed systems. And then the other way of reducing cost is obviously problems. So what we do is we design quality gateways. Now, my background's chartered quality. So to me, this is absolutely essential. But we mark where we can determine feedback. And that might be something we can measure. It may be customer feedback. But we need at every stage of our process points where we can actually measure or react to what's happening. So we can make a difference before they become bigger issues. If I look to the automotive industry, what we want to do is check it's happening before it goes into the car and out to the public. But that's the same with service. You'll be able to get an idea of what's happening before it all goes out and before it becomes a bigger issue, or maybe a cost. So low cost of operations as well. Obviously, if we don't want anything going wrong during manufacture or during preparing a quote, for instance, you don't want mistakes because they'll cost you in the long run. And the last one is a happy team. I found even recently that we want to give people, we want to empower them to make decisions, which is absolutely brilliant, but we do need some boundaries. And actually with different personality types, you can actually stress people out if they haven't got enough framework, strategy, processes. And I know we all have employees, maybe we could give them a guideline and they go run with it and they deliver. But there's other people we could give them an action and they'd want hand-holding through it. So we really do need to listen to people in the company as to what they need. And it's vitally important for you as well. So when you've got a system and you get all the clutter and the busyness out of your head, you can then delegate. And then you can focus on the more important things like strategy and where you're going. And it will also give you more predictable results because we've got a process in place and we've got people that understand our values and they bring back the result we want. With regard to mapping out your processes as we move on, it's a helicopter view is my best way of describing it. If things go wrong, if things aren't quite what we planned, we put in systems to make them work. But everybody's doing that. If you imagine a big business, everybody's trying to help. Everybody's putting extra controls. That didn't work quite right this time, so we'll change it to make sure, you know, forever and a day it's correct. But then if you don't take the helicopter view, you might find that things are changing in little pockets all over the company and they don't quite fit together. Someone's brought a piece of software in, does the job in marketing, but it doesn't talk to something else. So then you've got duplication of data. You've got lots of little things happening all over the place, but nobody's actually taking the helicopter view and finding how it talks to each other. So it's workflow is the best way of describing it. So an easy way to process map is to walk your customer journey. And it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be complex flow charts. You can just take an inquiry and walk step by step from person to person. And there may be more than one process, but pick one journey and walk it. And keep it very basic, but as you go, my advice is to think about the people that are doing the job. How do they feel about it? Have they got the right information? Have they got the right resources? What's happening on the coalface? And then if you write down a statement at each step, I think the most important thing to think about, obviously keep it very, very light, but think about the triggers. So if you've got a piece of paper and wrote down each step, think about what starts each step off. So what's everything that needs to happen? What conditions need to be met before that step happens? And then maybe who does it, what they need to do that action, and then what the output is. So what information, product happens, and in what format maybe is it presented to the next member of the team. So especially if it's data or information or forms, how does that get passed on? Where is it stored? So those, I'm hoping that makes sense. So let me just go over that. The trigger, the input, who does it, what they need to do it. So that's information or resources, and what the output is. And if you can think of about those 4 things for every step, and just keep walking the process from person to person as to who does the job. You don't need to know all the hows. For example, if you've got a particular process, I'm trying to think of one quickly, maybe contract review. So when the customer sends you an order, you check all the details before you move on. That's something you could just put a small box, maybe if you were drawing a flowchart, or a comment that this is a process in itself. It might be a checklist, but you don't need all the hows. You need to keep it really, really simple. And then if you look at the 4th item on my list, it's map out alternatives. So what I mean by that is, especially when you've got a checkpoint, what if that doesn't happen? What if it doesn't get delivered? What's plan B? And that's the beauty of removing risk. What's the plan B? So you need to map those steps out as well. So let me give you a little example. My comment below is people and systems. That's absolutely crucial. You need to bring people and systems together. And the biggest reason I ask you to do this is because when you come to actually plan an improvement, you will actually know who your change champions are, who's going to lead, because you know how people feel about their job, you know what their aspirations are, you've had a good chat to them as you go through the system. It's amazing. It makes, most people find change hard, or hard to bring everybody in to want it. If you've spoken to everybody in your customer journey before you decide to change anything, you will be on a completely different foot, and you'll win together. We can't please everybody, but if we involve everybody from the start, we can come to an agreement. There may be conflict, there may be different views, there may be people that are set in their ways, but that's the beauty of brainstorming and conflict resolution, and I think we can get there a far better way. Okay. I don't know whether anyone has heard of Bobby Ansner, but he was a racing driver. But success is where preparation and opportunity meet. So this is going out the other side. If we're really prepared and we got our systems absolutely watertight and everybody knows what they should be doing, I think we'll absolutely fly. And I'm hoping the orders come in. So my view of a sustainable model for success is, if there is a cost-effective way to give a great customer experience, why wouldn't we systemize it every single time? And I think you'll win, because you just can't afford somebody to get a poor level of service, because they won't come back. They might forgive you once, but they definitely won't come back. So I think that's about it. I will tell you about a little exercise when we're looking at changing something and we look at an improvement project. We quite often put our support in at the early stages. Now, there's a lovely little exercise that I'm going to share with you. If you wrote your name on a piece of paper 10 times, you would probably get quicker over time. If I asked you to write every other letter of that sentence or your name, you'd think, well, actually, it should take half the time, shouldn't it? Well, it doesn't, because obviously we've got to think about the order of the letters. But if you picture a graph and we actually plot the time you take, so maybe I ask you to write it 10, 20 times, you will find that in the first instance, when you're just writing the sentence or your name, you will eventually get slightly quicker and you will improve. If I ask you to write every other letter, you will take longer at first and you think you might take quicker, get quicker. If we actually look at a graph, I'd 100% guarantee you will actually get slower after first few, because your brain kicks in and go, oh, have I actually got these letters in the right order? And it starts questioning things. So you actually stop and get slower before you get quicker. And that happens with change as well. People start to question, is this the right thing? So when you do decide to look at your process and you change things, make sure you've got the support, not just at the beginning, when people start to question, are we going down the right road? It's absolutely key. And then bring them together.
So yes, a virtual round of applause for Angela. Thank you very much. That's been marvellous. Yes, so that was part of the B2B webinar series. If you're interested in having a look at B2B networking events, we do a B2B online session twice weekly on a Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock and on a Thursday morning. And there's a free week's trial as well for anyone. So just drop me an email. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And we look forward to meeting you again in the not too distant future. And thank you again, Angela.